Good morning. My name is Brian Powers, and I'm an interviewer for the Veterans History Project. And today is November 26, 2013. And we are at the main library in downtown Cincinnati in the Nolan Room. And today we're speaking to a World War veteran, and his name is Bill Hargis. Mr. Hargis, thanks very much for coming down today to talk about your time in the war.
Thank you.
Well, with these interviews, we always like to start out and ask, where were you born?
I was born in Norwood, Ohio in 1923.
And I think you were born on a special day.
Oh, 4th of July. yeah, I was a firecracker.
And now, when you were the oldest, I think?
Oldest of the family, yeah.
And how many siblings did you have?
Oh, I have three. Three.
So you're the oldest of three?
Yeah, I'm the oldest, yeah.
Now, your family, were they from Cincinnati originally, or were they from somewhere else?
No, they were from Somerset, Kentucky. My mother and dad was from Somerset, Kentucky.
When did they come to Cincinnati, and why did they come to Cincinnati?
They came my dad came up there to get a job, like most everyone did, back in those days, you know.
What was the job that he ended up doing?
Well, I think the first job when he first came to Cincinnati, he was carrying coffins, or unloading coffins, because they had a flu back in there, about 19, and I think it was 18 or 19.
Right.
They had the flu season, and work was available down in Cincinnati. But later, when he got married, he came back again and got a job at the American Laundry Machinery Company in Norwood. And he stayed there 46 years, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you guys didn't stay in Norwood. You moved to a different part of Cincinnati?
Well, yeah, we went to Pleasant Ridge later on.
Which is not far from Norwood.
Now, it's just right on the border almost, yeah.
So where did you end up going to school?
Pleasant Ridge Elementary.
Elementary.
Yeah, the first school I went to was in Norwood. That was a kindergarten at Allison Elementary in Norwood.
So the street that you grew up on was in Pleasant Ridge. What was that neighborhood like? What was that street like?
Well, it was just a mixed up bunch of people, come from different countries and whatever. But they all seemed to like each other, and eventually they called it Gabby Alley.
Oh, yeah. So you had people from, I think you were telling me you had somebody from Scotland that was from there?
Yeah, we had a Scotland, Irish, and German, and anything else that came by, I guess.
And so living in that area, what high school did you end up going to?
Went to Withrow High School, yeah.
That's a pretty big high school in this area.
Yeah, that was a big one. We used to go over there they used to put 2 streetcars together, and that was for those kids to get on.
Oh, you had a special one to go into school?
Yeah, that was a special run. They'd bring the Pleasant Ridge kids that was going to Withrow High School there, and we just stopped there and we'd all get on it.
How long did it take to get in there?
It didn't take very long, maybe a half an hour. Yeah.
So when you were in high school, did you do anything like sports or anything like?
No, I didn't do any sports. I just got I had a bad leg at that time, and I couldn't play sports. But I did play with Thomas Funeral Home in Madisonville when I got a little bit older. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time I was going to school, I started 6th grade, and I had a brace on my leg when I first started school. But they didn't have many sports for kids in the elementary schools.
Well, why did you have a brace?
Well, I had an operation at Children's Hospital. I was in the hospital for 6 months.
You said before the interview that you worked for the CC?
Yeah, I worked for the CC camps.
Can you talk about what the CC was and what did you do?
Well, we used to, I was assigned to Yellowstone Park, and
Wait, and how old were you?
let's see, I was about How old was I, bud?
17.
17, yeah, 17 I got. So that Jimmy Hester, he must have been about that age too, wasn't he? He was older than me. He must have been 8.
Couple years older.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jimmy Hester. Now, he was a guy that lived in Pleasant Ridge. And
Right,
he was
yeah.
he was a boxer, right?
He was a boxer, yeah.
And he was in the CCs.
Right.
But he got.
Got killed though in the
Can you
CC.
tell that story a little bit? What was the circumstances?
Oh yeah, there was a forest fire in Idaho, and they took the boys over there and they fought fires, and I think this present day they still got a monument there in Idaho they got burned up in a forest fire. But Jimmy, he died in a boat crossing the Yellowstone Lake. And that's what they told me when I went out there. It was I was just lucky. I went to the same camp he did, Camp Mammoth. And the boys were still there in the service. They knew him, you know, and they showed me his bunk and everything, and how he got killed and everything like that.
How long was that before you were there?
I guess that was just, well, it was probably maybe not quite a year, you know. I thought it was I didn't know I was going to go out there in that place. I just thought I'd be all better off by going into CC camps.
And why did you join the CC camp?
Yeah, I joined it.
Was there a reason why you did that?
Well, just to get away from home, I guess. No, actually, what happened there was the money would be sent to your folks, and so they could use it, or they could save it for you. In my case, my folks saved it for me, you know, when I got out, or they could use it.
Yeah.
I think they did use some of it to put a new furnace in. Yeah.
Well, how long were you there? How long were you doing that?
6 months. You sign up for 6 months at a time. And I got to be a boxer myself out there in the CC camp. So we had a boxing tournament, and then I won in the district there. And then later on, I was set up. They called them, they were reserve army officers at that time in charge of the CC camps. And the only rating you would have was an assistant leader or a leader. So I didn't get promoted or anything till I got back from Missoula, Montana, and I went up there for the finals at Missoula, Montana. They was different. They come in from different states. So at this army camp, which was originally an old cavalry outpost, that's where we did our boxing up there. So I won 3 nights. I fought 3 nights in a row, and I won the championship.
What weight class were you in?
So I was light heavyweight.
Light heavyweight.
I was at that time. I don't know how I got so fat, but I did. But anyway, I won, and so I got a bathrobe, and the boxer, the fellow I defeated, he pulled his gloves off and rode in with a pen. Nice going, Bill. So I beat him, you know, at that last fight. So I got his gloves, and they gave us a fountain pen, something like that. And so I came back, and nobody messed with me when I came back. So I got promoted to assistant leader when I came back.
Wow.
So
and you're 17?
Yeah, 17. Yeah. I didn't know exactly how old I was. That's why I asked you, bud.
I think you were 17.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Then I got a jacket. I forgot about the jacket. It was a corduroy black jacket with Yellowstone Park on the back. And now I go up to the Monta Vista Theater, and the guy would let me in for nothing. You know,
Wow.
I'd beat him. So somebody must have told him I was a boxer.
Not to mess with you, huh?
Now I knew that Biederman. He hung around with some of the guy I used to run around with, Patton. Got my name with Patton.
Now, in 41, I guess you decided to join the Navy.
And then in 41, I decided to go to the Navy. I had enough school with that.
Was there a reason why the Navy?
Yeah, I just want to, well, let's see. Well, that sounded pretty good. And everybody else was going in the Army, so I'd change it to the Navy. Yeah. A lot of people was getting drafted back in them days. The older guys,
Even before Pearl Harbor
they were
started?
getting drafted. I was in before Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, but you weren't, you enlisted?
I enlisted. I was in the regular Navy.
Like, I think September of 41, right?
September 41, yeah.
Did you think you might get drafted?
Well, there's a possibility there, yeah. So because some of the fellas there, like Walter Griever, some of them, they all had about a year in before I got in the thing there, yeah.
Were there a lot of people in your neighborhood joining the armed forces?
Yeah, they were, yeah, everybody with the age, yeah. So I went in a little bit earlier than most of them. Most of them waited until they got drafted, yeah.
So when you enlisted, did you go downtown? Did you?
I went down to the post office building, yeah. Yeah, and I had the Navy recruiter in the post office
Was that
building,
in
right there
Dalton,
at Fountain
the
Square.
Dalton Street, that post
No,
office, or was it a different one?
it was on Fountain Square at the time.
Okay.
Post office building there. And right there where the buses would come in now, you know, that's the post office right there.
So did the recruiter promise you anything?
No, they didn't promise you nothing. They said, then later on, after they got a letter, and we had to meet downtown, and a bus took us to Great Lakes.
Okay.
The Great Lakes.
Up in
Yeah.
Chicago area?
Yeah, it was Great Lakes training. Yeah, we went up there and completed the training.
How long was your training in there, Great Lakes?
Well, it was pretty long. I give you the whole bit right there, but what it was, a lot of people, I never did tell this to too many people, but they rejected me because on account of my leg.
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you a little bit later about my leg. Well, see, my leg here has been operated on, and a famous surgeon here in Cincinnati operated on it. See, Dr. Freiberg. They said they were going to cut it off, but they didn't. But they drained all the pus and everything out of it, and when they drained it, they cut all this muscle away, and I never did have I always had to favor my left leg more.
And that operation is when you were talking about earlier, when you were a kid?
Yeah, when I was a kid, yeah. I was in a hospital there for 6 months at the Children's Hospital. But this Mr. Freiberg, they got a big building out here in Galbraith Road named after him. He's a famous surgeon back in them days. And he drained all that out. And it was like a huge boil next to the bone on the inside of my leg. And that's what happened. It was just about gone, you know.
So when you got up to Great Lakes, what was it? How did they find out about your leg?
They rejected me.
Yeah.
I passed about everything they wanted me to do, but they seen them big, heavy scars that you wouldn't have the ability to do things, you know. But what I had to do is sign my insurance. I was never covered by insurance. Like anybody that got killed or anything, there would be no insurance for your folks. But I signed the paper anyway. The heck with the insurance, I'm going in. So I did. I went in there, and so I was able to do everything. The only thing I had trouble doing when in the Navy, when I put this one ship in commission, they put me on a buoy off of Catalina Island out in San Diego. And that's when we were taking our shakedown cruise on the Callaghan. And so they put me on the buoy, and I had a heaving line. And when the ship came up to the buoy, I was supposed to throw that up on the deck. You know, the heaving line, it had a square, like a ball on the end of it. It was covered with like a clothesline, you know, wrapped around it. And you know, instead of throwing it up on the deck, I threw it right through the eye. It was the best place in the world. They put it right through that eye, like on the bow, they had a big opening, and I shot it right through there. I never could do that again after that. But waiting for that destroyer to come up next to that thing was wobbling, you know. And I still have balance, you know, trouble, because it's hard to balance on one leg.
Yeah.
And I had to use both legs to kind of do like this, you know, to get your kind of momentum, you know, that buoy. Otherwise, you'd go off balance and you'd feel funny by falling down, you know, when the ship was coming right at you, you know. So that's where I had the difficulty. And then when I guess I got my story a little bit ahead of time. The first ship I was on was the Arapaho. And the first job I got was on the Arapaho.
Yeah.
And the first job I got on there was going up to the mast on the top, and the highest place on the ship in foul weather gear and everything. And I had to report all the icebergs and all the whales I seen, through a voice tube. So, and that morning before I went on duty, I had beans, cornbread, and prunes for breakfast. And I thought that was really good eating. But boy, it was bad when I got seasick. Between the masts going up and down, side by side, and the bow going up and down like that. Man, everything came up right on top of the captain and all the bridge up there. So they took me off. Got me out of there. 2 guys went up in and got me down. And I stayed in the bunk for about a day or so.
Wow.
But after that, I never got seasick again.
So when you were, we'll get back to that, your first ship you were on, but I just wanted to talk about Great Lakes a little bit. But with your leg, did you have problems with all the drills and everything?
But no, I didn't even have no trouble going up the ladders or anything like that.
Yeah.
As long as I had something to hold on to, the pole,
Yeah. Good upper
But if you didn't
body
have,
strength.
by not having your arms, nothing to grab, that's why they put banisters on, something to grab people to grab onto.
Now, after Great Lakes, I think you ended up in Jacksonville?
Yeah,
Florida?
Jacksonville, yeah.
And what were you doing there?
Well, I'll tell you about Jacksonville.
Before, I'm really sorry, one of the questions I wanted to ask, wait a minute, we're not even quite there. I think you're here at Great Lakes. At what time during this time period Pearl Harbor happens? Where were you? We always like to ask people, where were you when you heard about Pearl Harbor? And I just wanted to, before we moved on, where were you? Were you still in Great Lakes when that happened?
I was at Great Lakes, still at Great Lakes, waiting for my assignment to Jacksonville. And that was a disappointment because I didn't want to go to school, because I quit school down in Withrow. And so I was going to Jacksonville, but I was getting along pretty good. And that was the aviation ordnance school. They put those fellas on there to put the bombs on, and all these torpedo planes, the torpedoes,
right.
They were on carriers.
Okay, that's what you were learning, what you were doing in Jacksonville?
You'd be learning to go on a carrier. And so the carriers didn't do so good out there at Midway, and the torpedo bombers didn't do very good either. And then I didn't do very good when we had our first Liberty. We were about ready to graduate, so we celebrated there in Jacksonville.
This is in Jacksonville, right?
And that's what saved my life by getting kicked out of that school.
Can you explain what happened? What happened in Jacksonville? And then
well, we got to celebrate, and we got to rolling garbage cans down the alley, and so the police didn't like that too well, so they give us a pretty good whipping, just like your mother would, But I had knots on my head all over. So we went on KP after we got out of jail, and then they sent all the ones they didn't want, the guys that was kicked out of schools and different people who was on this Arapaho. After the second one was ever made. The first one.
You said it saved your life for getting arrested.
It did.
Why is that?
Otherwise, I would have went out to Pearl Harbor. And I've been on the Arizona. Most of the graduation, there was about 150 in a company, I believe. And most of them went on the Arizona and the West Virginia. And I'd have been on either one of those ships, and that would have been deadly. But at the time, my buddy Patton, boy, he said, we really messed up. We copied everything off of this guy that went through college, and here we wound up going to school, and we've been on them big battleships out there at Pearl Harbor. But I didn't know where Pearl Harbor was, and nobody else here hardly in the country knew where Pearl Harbor was when that happened. And so it was a list out, and So a lot of them was on that Arizona and also the battleships. That would have been a bad place to go. That's what saved my life, too, because I wasn't out there. Second time, at Jacksonville, by getting kicked out of school, that saved my life. I went on the Arapaho. And then I was saved quite a bit on the last ship I was on.
Well, before you talk about, we'll talk about that ship, but I want to start one ship at a time. So
okay, all right.
You already told us your first assignment on that first ship.
Yeah. Okay.
So what kind of ship was the Arapaho?
Arapaho was a seagoing tug. A seagoing tug. It was here. They had two of them at the time after we got it commissioned, and then later on, they made icebreakers, and that was the same kind of a hull, but they put a different kind of a bow on them. And it was in the invasion of Africa. We went to Gibraltar. We were down to the Mediterranean. We went as far as Cairo, and they had a 3-inch gun on the bow of them, and they had depth charges on them. And we was in when we first, the convoy was formed, we took the northern route. And during going in the convoy there, across the North Atlantic, they took the northern route, and they came down to the Azores right before the Gibraltar. And we traded in Gibraltar. We traded coffee. Coffee for bread. Yeah. We had coffee they give us sacks of bread, and we give them sacks of coffee. And then later on, we went down to Cairo for some reason or another to pick up something for somebody else. And then we got a call when we came back from Gibraltar to pick up a ship that got torpedoed in the Azores. So we went out there and got that ship and brought it back to Gibraltar and brought it back in. And then later on, we went down to Morocco, French Morocco, for the invasion. They had the Jean Bart, the Massachusetts, put it out of commission there. They had a pretty good battle. So it was up on a sandbar. The Vichy French scuttled it, and then the Free French wanted it back on again. So we went down there and pulled the thing off the harbor. There's a bunch of English tugs too. It took us quite a few ships to pull that thing off the beach. So we pulled it off, and they put it where they wanted to. Then we got a call later on to go up and get the Almac, and we towed that across the Atlantic to Norfolk, Virginia. So that was about a week's tow there. We was only going about 3 knots or 4 knots an hour, and so it took a long time to get across. And then a little Canadian Corvette. It was kind of a small patrol cutter. It probably had a radar on it, but they guarded us all the way over.
How many people were assigned on that ship? How many people?
There was about 160 people on it. Yeah, about 160. Yeah, that was a pretty good sized ship. Yeah.
So how long did it take to get your sea legs there?
Well, I got my sea legs on that at that Arapaho. My goodness. Oh yeah, I never did get sick after that, and later on I was in big typhoons in the Pacific. Yeah.
So what were some of the other things you did on the Arapaho? What was did you have a certain assignment that you did?
Oh, you mean on a seagoing tug? Yeah. Oh, my battle station on a seagoing tug was a 3-inch gun, and a submarine when we were going down to Cairo when we first got there. It was the submarine came right up in front of us, and all sailors come running out of there, and we went to our battle stations, and it was an English submarine coming back into Gibraltar, coming back to home base. But we was about ready to shoot at them. that 3-inch gun. So I had it loaded and everything. I put they're all in one piece on a 3-inch smaller caliber. So you just had all the shell and everything together like a rifle bullet, you know. So that was the end of the Callaghan. And then we went to Pearl Harbor on the Arapaho, and and that was the end of it. And after we dropped
So
the
you
ship,
went from Atlantic all the way to the Pacific on that
yeah,
ship.
we went after we dropped the ship off at Norfolk, and the English staggers. They had a big English cruiser got torpedoed in the Atlantic, and we were docked right alongside of it. And I could see the English staggers every time they went ashore there. They would bring back canned goods because England was in bad shape, and they'd take food back to their folks.
Yeah.
So they got their ship fixed, and then the United States fixed it. And then later on, we went to the Panama Canal Zone and went to Pearl Harbor. And I got transferred off of that because I needed somebody, I guess, to Callaghan. That's the next one I went on.
Well, I thought you were in Yorktown now.
No. Yorktown, oh yeah, I came back after I got transferred off to Arapaho. I was transferred to the Yorktown, and that was just a passenger on it. I was just a passenger on the Yorktown. And we played softball for 3 days on that hangar deck. And I told that to a woman this past year down in Charleston. My son took me down there. She said, I bet you all left an awful lot of balls on that carrier. And I said, no, we played on the hangar deck. All the planes was up top side. So that was a good experience. And I went aboard the Yorktown when I was down there this past year. And that's where they had the Medal of Honor there for Admiral Callaghan. They have a place there on the thing. And then there was a lot of Boy Scouts on there. And I told them Boy Scouts, I said, I used to be a Boy Scout there at Troop 6 in Pleasant Ridge in the Presbyterian Church there, across from the elementary school. And so.
Where was that ceremony at? At Yorktown, the Callahan? Where were you at for that? With the Boy Scouts?
Yeah, the Boy Scouts were spending weekends, and they must have had 1,000 Boy Scouts on that carrier at that time.
So where was that? Was it in Norfolk, or maybe it was in?
No, that was in Charleston this past year.
Oh, it was in Charleston. Okay.
Just this past year, my son wanted to take me down there, and we could find out where the Arapaho was commissioned, where I commissioned it. But the naval base was still there. It was closed, but the big carrier, there's a submarine down there in the Yorktown, and there's a destroyer down there, Taffy's down there.
Oh yeah, okay. Taffy from the Philippine battle.
Yeah, the Philippine battle. Yeah, that's right. They were shot up pretty bad there.
So with the Yorktown, that you just played softball? You didn't do much?
That's all we did. I played softball every day. And I got transferred off of that. Yeah.
And the next you were on the Callahan.
The next one was the Callaghan. Yeah.
And that was the destroyer, I believe?
Yeah, that was a destroyer. That was named after Admiral Callaghan. He was killed under San Francisco, and he won the Medal of Honor because he was the admiral there in charge of the whole thing down there.
By this time, it's like about 1943 or
that was. Well, by the time I commissioned Callaghan, it was 43. Yeah, the latter part of 43.
And then, where did you pick up? Where was the Callahan when you got assigned to it?
San Pedro, Bethlehem Steel. Yeah, that was Bethlehem Steel. They made it there, right there at Long Beach. San Pedro, yeah, San Pedro, and they called it Bethlehem Steel. Then Long Beach is right there by it.
Right.
Yeah, we used to. Yeah, wait, and then Mrs. Callaghan, she christened the ship there. I was on there when.
So that was a new ship when you.
That was brand new. Yeah, it was brand new. Yeah. So I was brand new, so we had to take a shakedown cruise with it before they'd send it out, make sure everything was okay. Yeah, I put it in commission, and I was on it when I decommissioned it.
Right. Well, you were on it when it went down, right? But we'll get to that. Right?
Oh yeah, okay.
So the Callahan was in a lot of different. You were an escort, I think, weren't originally, or that was one of your assignments, escorting?
No, we used to escort carriers.
Right.
But we didn't get in with the escort business for a good while. But the first action we seen was in the Marshall Islands. Kwajalein, we bombarded that for a long while. And then there was Eniwetok, and then later on, when we got up in the Marianas, we start in the big carriers, with the big carriers, Essex type carrier. Yeah, the Essex and all the big carriers. So that in fact, I got pictures of that's the ship we escorted most of the time. But they, after we got so many barnacles on it, going so fast at so many different places, we got a lot of barnacles on the ship. So they detached us, and we went down to they used to call it Mogmog, but that's where they had these portable dry docks, floating dry docks. You go in there and we knocked the barnacles off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm getting ahead of my story too. That didn't happen until about 1944.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of bombardment and a lot of. We started off in the Marshall Islands, and we went to the Mariana Islands, and all them places there, and then we went to as time went by between the escorting the carriers and the bombardments, and we wound up in Iwo Jima. They put us in a position there between two battleships, and South Dakota was firing on top of us. They were flying over us, and you could hear them shells going off of there. It sounds like being in a tunnel on a railroad when a train goes by, and inside of it, a big roar.
Did you have a battle station that you were?
Oh yeah, I was on number 1 5-inch gun. Yeah, that was that's where I slept, in the bow. So it never did bother me to be in the bow. A lot of them didn't want to sleep in the bow, and I was a loader on a 5-inch gun.
Why didn't people want to sleep in the bow?
Because it's real rough. See, if you ever notice those smaller ships, they have these big troughs about 50 foot deep, and you go going down in them, and then you come back up, and then you go down. But if you're back on the after part of the ship, you don't get that rolling down and up. Yeah, some of them big troughs, you didn't think you was ever going to get out of them, especially in them typhoons. You had a Monahan, the Spence, and the Hull. They lost them in these typhoons. That was lost. I was showing Bud there the list of all the destroyers was sunk in the Pacific there, and there's a lot of 50 some of them.
From typhoons?
And I got a map there showing you exactly where they're at.
Wow. How often did you run into typhoons? Was that seasonal, or was that?
Well, they're still
I don't know how it
having
worked
them.
with typhoons.
This last week they had the typhoons.
Right, the Philippines.
Well, that's where we were at.
But is there a typhoon season, like hurricanes?
Well, the water's warm over there. See, the water's warm, and typhoons are always having typhoons. Boy, that one recently, they must have been a bad one. Well, we had a bad one there too. 3 ships lost. And a little D.E. Roberts, a destroyer escort, picked up 32 out of it, but the rest of it was all gone. Never did see them again. But what saved us there, the captain was smart enough to, when the fuel tanks was empty, they would put water, they'd ballast them out with water. So they put water in ours, so that's what saved us. But he said a prayer over the loudspeaker.
Wow, really?
He saved their,
Did you guys felt pretty?
Oh yeah,
like,
they did. We
this is
know,
it?
I got a picture at home with all these mattresses and everything. When we came out of the storm, we get all these mattresses and everything, and clothing and whatever. It was wet because we took in water from the stack, and every.
What were you doing? Were you just sort of staying close, or were you doing things?
I was just holding on. Down below decks, you couldn't go out. You get washed over there. We lost a lot of fencing, around the deck. Yeah.
Were you getting tossed around inside?
Oh, golly, yeah, you really got tossed around. You had to hold on bad. Yeah. If you'd have went out on the deck there, you'd have had it. Yeah, it was coming clear over.
And how long did that go on in the typhoon? How long were you?
Well, I don't remember exactly how long, but it was long enough to feel like it would stop. You know, you're just glad it was stopping doing that. It took a long time to clean up. Anyway, we went alongside the Essex, and they gave us our tanks up and everything. But it was hard even after that to get our fuel, because the carrier's so high up, and getting the fuel line back and forth was a big job.
So you were also like in Tinian. You were involved with a lot of different, like the Gilbert Islands.
Oh, the Gilbert Islands, yeah, oh yeah. I can't remember all of them. Yeah, we used to hide there over Aishima there at Okinawa, where that famous fella there. What was his name? That guy used to write for the paper. Well, he was an army guy. He would travel around.
The guy who died near the end of the war?
He was a reporter. He took a lot of pictures.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And we used to hide over there at Aishima, there's a little island there. Yeah, we used to hide there during the daytime, and then we would get our ammunition over there from the ship.
You're talking about Ernie Pyle?
Ernie Pyle, yeah, right. Yeah, that was it. Ernie Pyle.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the little island right off Okinawa.
Yeah, that's where we
Right.
used to hide there.
That same
And
island?
a sniper got him out.
You were hanging out at the same island that he was killed at?
No, we were hiding during the daytime. Yeah, we would bombard at night, and then we would get our ammunition during the day, and we'd be over there by Aishima over there. And we'd load up our ammunition, and we'd fire at night again, bombard all night. Yeah. And then I'll tell you what, I don't know how the hell we stood it all the time, because it was pretty rough going, you know.
Yeah.
So we'd fire them at night, all kinds of different star shells. They want star shells and that stuff would burn you up. So what they call that? Anyway, I can't think of the name of it. Now, when I get up and walk around, I'll probably think of it.
Yeah, well, you think of it. But I think you were also in Okinawa. It says that you were part of the 5th and 3rd Fleet raid.
Yeah, 3rd Fleet, yeah, Hal Halsey's task force, yeah. Yeah, we was the 5th Fleet, yeah, it was the 5th Fleet. And then Admiral Spruance, he sent those little DEs and everything against those big battleships down there. Then Halsey was still trying to hunt ships up at the north up there. We went right up there, and this one day, the Mariana Turkey shoot, we had a real day that day. We shot down 3 planes. We sunk a submarine and got 2 suicide boats when we got up there farther up, and all in one day. That was quite a load.
Now, at some point, you guys got hit by a kamikaze.
Oh, well, we had a strafing job before we got we were strafed by a killed our baker before we ever got sunk. Killed a guy by the name of McCann from Tennessee, and he just got through making a lot of bread, and he was manning a 20 millimeter, and so the plane came down and strafed us before it did anything else, and I remember that real well. We had a burial at sea the next day for McCann. It was pretty sad. It was kind of hard to be eating that bread, and he just made it the night before.
Wow, man. But I guess I want to talk when you guys got hit by the kamikaze. I think you were on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that day there.
Weren't you on? You were on watch, I think.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, that was in the Marianas when we shot down these 3 planes, and there was another plane. It just scraped the side of the thing. You know, it came in, but it cut her telephone wires. You know, like between the 2 stacks.
Yeah.
That's how close it came. It came down, and the wing, it scraped the doggone thing. But you know what happened? You know what splashed up on the deck? The guy's shoe. He had a boot on, and it came up there, and one of the guys went over there to look at it, and it had a foot in it. It had a foot in the boot, and the seaman there, I don't forget what his name was, and then he says, "Sir, what should I do with this?" He said, "Throw it over there with the rest of him." I remember that shoe going up, that boot, yeah. It was a Japanese leg here.
But I guess I want to talk about when the Callaghan got sunk by it.
Yeah.
You were working in the evening, I think. You were on post.
I was on duty. Yeah, I was on. That was my duty. Yeah, I was on the 5-inch gun. Yeah, I was on watch from 4. Well, that day was a bad day. Yeah, we went to a battle station. I don't know how many times, and I thought it was just another false alarm. And yeah, I was in there. I just got off from watch at 12 o'clock, 4 to 12, and then I went into bunk, but about 10 minutes, and I'd be damned, another battle call, you know. So I just left my back, took a life jacket, and just left it there, and crawled up through that little hole, you know, on the bow, and went back into my, station again, and it wasn't any long there. After I got up there, and they got some rounds out before I got up there, and I knew it was the real thing then.
Before then, were you being attacked?
Oh yeah, we were attacked.
All day and all night kind of thing? Or?
Well, we were under attack all day, just about. They were sending them, one after another all day. Yeah, we was they were picking up these radar sightings all day long. Yeah.
And where were you in the Pacific at that point?
At that time, we was on picket duty about 60 miles from Okinawa. 60 miles. We'd already had orders on the ship to go out because our guns was wore out. Everybody else was wore out too. We were wore out, and the laws was supposed to be out there to be our relief. And we had the day before the captain. The guy that was in charge. Another captain was over there. He was a commodore. Yeah, he was on the ship when it was hit, and we had orders on the ship to go back to the United States the next day, and it didn't happen. The laws, but they finally got out there, but it was a lot later the next day, I think. And they were under attack, and so let's see. Where am I at?
Well, we got you. It's after midnight. You go back up there.
Oh, after midnight.
One more time.
I went up there in my underwear. Yeah, I went up there in my underwear.
Really?
Yeah.
With no life jacket?
No jacket, no nothing. Just my underwear. And I got up there and started doing my job. Because that thing was groaning around there. It was coming up with the wake of the ship, and it was groaning around there, and finally it came down on us. And it was a pretty good explosion when it hit, but boy, when that second explosion went off, man, that's the loudest explosion I ever heard.
Well, what was the first explosion? What was the second explosion?
Well, the first explosion was when it hit.
It hit in the stern.
Yeah, it hit in the after part of the ship on the number 3 turret, the stern, the handling room they called it. And it hit, and that made a pretty good explosion because it killed those guys, and it exploded some of the ammunition. But that second explosion, it was a loud one because the bomb went down in the magazine. And we had that full of, they had torpedoes and everything down in there.
Oh.
And them things went off there, and it broke the keel of the ship. It put a hole in the bottom of that ship. And it didn't take no time. Before I could get out of the gun mount, it was right up to the gun mouth. You wasn't jumping anywhere. It was, you was in the water when you opened up the gun mouth door. So that was it.
So there was no jumping? It was just...
It was no jumping. It was already up there. Then after I got in the water, it didn't feel too bad. It was warm. And
what time of year was it?
It wasn't. It was just warm. But then after a while, after that second big loud explosion, that potato box I was hanging on, it was all broken to pieces. I had hanging on a potato box. And then that's when I got oil in my eyes. That was the worst part about it, the oil. It was burning my eyes, but the water, it didn't bother me at all. It felt pretty good, warm. It wasn't cold.
What time of year was that?
Well, it was, July.
Was that 45?
That was 45. Yeah, July the 29th, 45. That's what bothered me more than anything else, that doggone oil.
Were there many other guys in the water with you?
Well, there was, but then after a while, our depth charges started going off and everything, and everybody was getting scattered around. Then I watched the ship go down because near the ship, the water was on fire from the oil. And I could see the ship going there because it was lit up. At 792, I could see that the reflection from the water, it was going up there. But I didn't see it very long. It went down pretty fast.
Wow. Were you concerned that the fire was going to come your way?
No, I didn't have any fire around me because all those different explosions, it's kind of separating the oil and the water and everything, but it was pretty much oil there.
Were you when you first were getting off the ship, did you swim a while to get away, or?
No, I didn't swim nowhere. There wasn't no place. There's no place to swim.
I just was wondering, everything's on fire, whether you're swimming away from the fire.
Well, I did swim, but by morning it was all scattered. There wasn't no fire or nothing, Yeah. But I could see ships out there the next morning, and I seen a ship there. It looked like it was getting pretty close to me, and I did a little swimming there to get over to the ship, as close as I could to it. But I could see the guys later on putting a cargo net over the side of it, and then that's when I really started swimming as hard as I could to get over there, because I wanted them to see me. So I think they spotted me, and then I got aboard there, but they kind of helped me out because I was weak. I was weak. And
you were in the water for how long?
Well, after midnight till the next morning, about 10 o'clock, 10:30, something like that.
Did you have anything to float? You were saying you had something earlier, but were you just trying to stay afloat because you didn't have a life jacket? How did you stay afloat?
Well, you tread water. Yeah, you just tread water, just like you're in a swimming pool. Yeah.
Did you know how to do that, like growing up, or is that something?
I learned that from down there in Kentucky, down around Somerset. And when you went swimming down there, you swim in the creek. You learn how to swim. Because I used to swim down there with my cousins. Now they didn't know how to swim, but the city boys. I was raised up in the city, and they wouldn't. They had to work in the fields and stuff, And they didn't. Only time they'd let you go to the creek is when they, after church, they'd let their kids and I'd go down to the creek, like koi and oil, and after church, Mill pond. It used to be an old mill pond there. And where my uncle used to water his mules. And they had a big grapevine there and a tire, automobile tire, and we'd swing out there. That's where I learned how to swim.
Well, lucky you did, because I don't know if you couldn't swim, I guess you probably wouldn't have made it to the thing.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have made it.
Now, you were saying earlier about you had these things that saved your life, and I think you were going to tell us something about maybe this ship. Was that what were you... I don't know if you remember where you...
Well, what really saved my life was the Case and Young. They're the one that picked me up out there. And so I got aboard that, and well, after they dried me off and rubbed me off a little bit, one of the boys went down his locker and got me a shirt and a pair of dungarees. They didn't call them blue jeans back in them days, it was dungarees. And so I put them on, and I was feeling pretty good about that, but I was kind of I still suffered my eyes there. And then later on, they transferred me to the hospital ship out there. No, it was a hospital ship. It did, and I got aboard there. Then they give me some solution in that, but that oil was penetrating in me even after weeks and weeks later. After I got home on my survivor's leave, my mother always had nice clean beds, and she had some nice white sheet on there. And the next morning, that oil was still in my system.
Wow.
She said, "What's all that brown stuff in my bed?" She said, "You didn't go to the bathroom in there, did you?" I said, "No." I said, "What's wrong with it?" She said, "It's all brown." And that was that oil. All that oil.
Wow. Just sweating it out, huh?
All that soaked in my skin. Well, I had a suntan, and the neighbor across the street there, he thought I was a black guy when I came home. I guess he was checking to see if any black people was moving in his neighborhood.
Well, do you,
Al
when,
Bolton,
you
yeah.
when you see oil, does that bring you back to
The oil?
You ever see water or oil or anything?
Well,
triggers anything?
Well, no, I don't think about it now.
So when you got out of the hospital, you're in the hospital ship. How long were you on that ship?
Oh, I wasn't very long. Then I got transferred. Most of it wasn't nothing wrong with them. They got the oil out of my eyes and ears and that. I was transferred to the Hyde, USS Hyde. That's where they had the services for all the people who were killed, I stayed on the Hyde till they put me on a ship after that. The Hyde had to go somewhere else after a day or so. And they put us on another ship, and I wound up in Samar on the Philippines. So I wound up back in the woods, back in the Philippines, and I stayed there till an old rusty ship finally came in, and they put us aboard that with plus about 200 Filipinos there joining the Navy. And they must have been out in the woods there, because all them guys, they could smell pretty rank. So I couldn't sleep below decks near them guys. So I just stayed up on the deck till we got to Seattle, Washington, and that took a long while.
So when before your ship sank, were you going to be part of the invasion of Japan?
Well, I imagine so, because everybody else was up there. Yeah, all the other ships was all up there. Everything in that area was up there in Japan. Yeah. I'd like to have been up there for that celebration, because they flew all the planes over there, and I seen some of the pictures there from Bud's computer there.
Where were you when you heard about the atomic bomb being dropped? Were you maybe in the Philippines, or?
Well, I never heard nothing about that, anything about an atomic bomb. So I got transferred to Toledo. After I come home from my survivor's leave, I had another year to do in the Navy. So I went down to pick up my orders. I was sent to Toledo. So that's where I run into these guys from Indianapolis. They got sunk the next day.
Right.
So I was up there I met a lot of them from Indianapolis.
And they were in the water.
They were 4 to 5 days, yeah.
They had shark attacks and all sorts.
Oh, God. Yeah, we had a reunion over there in Missouri one year, Kenton, Missouri. And there was a bunch of the guys came to our reunion. It picked up them guys from picked them up there. And, they said that was awful. He spoke there at our reunion, and they and then up there, that's where I volunteered for sea duty again at Toledo. I got up there and I almost froze to death up there. And I was up there a pretty good while. And but all the time I would go outside, there was, when they called us, they needed a type O blood. A baby or something was in the hospital up there, needed O type. Or I had a positive O. And that wasn't the rarest kind. What they wanted was a negative O when I got up there. So there was one guy there that had negative, but they still used our blood because they could put that in the bank.
Yeah.
In the bank up there, the positive O is what they really.
Well, what were you doing in Toledo?
Well, I finishing my time out.
But what were you doing office work? Or?
I didn't do no work. There was nothing to do. It was only time.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of like a rest camp
like
up
a rest
there.
camp,
It used to be an old yacht basin up there, and they turned it into a Navy armory. It was just like an armory, like for the reserves or something like that. And I was up there, and all we did was eat and drink and raise hell most of the time. And we got invited to like that hospital. We went there and spent a day, and then the relation of these babies or whatever, they invited us over to a place and ate, and that's all you did was eat. You go to different places, raise hell.
But eventually, I guess you did end up back at the Pacific.
Well, that's why I volunteered for sea duty, and the captain said, well, I guess, he said, I'd retransfer myself too if I could, but I can't do it. I got to stay in this place. Well, that wind had come off the Lake Erie up there. I'd never want to live in Cleveland or someplace like that. Oh my God, it's like a knife going through it. So, that's, and then I volunteered, and he said, okay, that's fine. But I did meet a lot of nice fellows after I did Indianapolis.
Were there a lot of people from your ship, from the Callaghan, that was here in Toledo? Were everybody who survived that go there?
Yeah, we had quite a few reunions. Oh yeah, we had.
Well, I just meant when you were in Toledo. I mean, you were saying it was sort of rest camp. Did you have a lot of people that from your ship go there too?
No. There wasn't nobody from Ohio. Just Ohio guys. I guess it was just the Ohio people.
So that's how those guys from
Indianapolis.
They
that
were
was
guys
close.
from Ohio.
That was Indianapolis. That was pretty close to Ohio. So that's why they went up there too.
So when you volunteered to go back, like, where did you get assigned?
I got assigned to San Francisco, and I got on this ship. I couldn't see what it was when I first got there. I went out on board at night, and if you've been out to San Francisco, you know how the fog comes in at night. Well, it was foggy as the devil that night, and so I said, well, I ain't gonna worry about it because I was tired. And so I got next morning. I found out what I had to do though. I could see that ship, and it was a big old cargo ship. It had been hauling stuff out there for all during the war, and everything was wore out. And what I had to do is splice wire and cable, and all their cables and lifts. You know, they were going to be lifting a lot of stuff. And I found out later why they wanted all them cables and slings made. So there was 7 of us that knew how to splice wire, and we worked there day and night, you know, every morning, and stay there all night. Then go out in the evening. We were right there by Alcatraz, and we'd head over to San Francisco in the night, and we'd go all over that Market Street. Mm-hmm. The main thing was Market Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that main. It had all the joints on Market Street. Yeah, all the queers and everything was over there. So we had to ride the trolleys around all over the place. So that was an interesting place. So that's where my daughter lives now, out there at Belmont, right near San Mateo, and then all that's together. And So I found out what they're doing. So they had scientists on there, and they had professors from universities there, and they had an underwater diving unit on it. And we put everything on it, soap and animals and you name it, Sherman tanks. And so we put all kinds of stuff on there. Then we went out to Bikini Lagoon. We was off and went under the Golden Gate Bridge, and we were off. And I was back to the Marshall Islands again.
Your old place, huh?
The old place where we started off. Then in the morning, we'd do our work in the morning, what was cool, and in the afternoon, we'd go over there at Bikini Island there, where I guess they called it, well, they named it a different thing, Bikini, but that was more or less a different new name, you know. But they took all the natives off there, and they moved them down to islands down below. But it was all green, pretty island. And then we would drink beer in the afternoon, and I'd buy a beer off of guys for $1 a can, so that was pretty expensive back in them days. A lot of guys didn't drink it because it was warm, you know. But I used to kind of get mine cold. I put that fire extinguisher against it, you know, that'd make it cold. Something like that, or put it on the shore, that'd cool it off, the ocean would. Then we got it, in the time for the test there, they had all the battleships was out there that I wanted to get on earlier, you know, from Pearl Harbor. They had them back here again, you know, they used them mostly in Normandy, you know, and everything. And then the first test was an underwater explosion. And then the second test was an airburst above the target ship. It was painted a real crimson red, real beautiful red, the Pennsylvania. And that was a target ship. That's the one they flew over and dropped a bomb down on.
Yeah.
And we were 10 miles away. That's as far as you can see on the sea, 10 miles. But that was close enough, because when that underwater explosion went off, man, it really raised the tide up going back out in the lagoon. And that cargo ship had a pretty high bow on it, but water still came up over it.
Well, when did you find out they were doing nuclear testing?
Well, out there, after they got out at sea for a while.
They'd let you know?
Yeah, they let us know, yeah. After we got way out there, yeah.
What did you thought when you heard that you were going to the
Well, I didn't think anything about it. I didn't think nothing about it, because I'd never seen an atomic bomb go off, so I didn't think nothing about it till it really happened. But after it happened, you knew what the hell happened. That tidal wave came in, and we had they gave us actually something you'd see a 3D movie with for our protection for our eyes.
Right.
And it was just like a cheap pair of sunglasses. But it didn't bother me or anything. But until it was all over, then that's when then you knew you had something on the ship. You had something crazy on our ship there. Yeah, anything bronze, that, what do they call that stuff? Radioactivity, I guess.
Yeah.
Radioactivity would hold into that metal. That's why all that metal from all those battleships is just useless. It's poisonous, you know. They can't use it for nothing. And so that ships will just have to stay there and rot. And so it's all contaminated. Yeah.
Did you, I'm sure you didn't really think about it back then, but as you went on in life, did you worry that you were exposed to radiation and all that?
Well, I didn't worry anything about it till I started getting these letters from the Washington there. How's my health and all this and that. So then I thought something about it. Yeah. But then I sent them a long time, but then all of a sudden I just quit sending them. Yeah.
But you never really felt like you had any health problems?
No, I've never had anything else. But the foreman over at Ford Motor Company, he could develop something in his head, and he had told me something about what happened to him. He was out there in that crossroads operation, and he had dropped his wallet out of a small boat, and he reached in and got it, and he put it back, and he didn't think nothing about it till the next day, and he felt kind of funny after that. And then after he was a foreman over at Ford Motor Company, and I used to be a quality control, his inspector in his department, and I would have to help fill his time sheet out and he'd tell me what to put down, because he would get kind of dizzy spells. So he had cancer of the brain later on. So that might have had something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, how long were you in the Bikini Islands?
Well, let's see, that whole summer, I guess. Yeah, the whole summer.
Was that like one of the last things you did in the Navy, or did you do stuff after?
Yeah, that was the last thing I did in the Navy, yeah. We stayed out there until we got back. Yeah. And we came in and we had to throw a lot of stuff overboard. We had the ship's bell, it was bronze, and all kinds of things. Any kind of something they want to throw overboard, they throw it overboard. And that's what we did, just throwing stuff away. Yeah, it was all kinds of good stuff too. A lot of stuff was down below decks, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, tools and that stuff.
So when did you have your separation? Where did that happen?
Let's see. Separation. Oh, Seattle, Washington. No, that wasn't Seattle, Washington. Yeah, it was Seattle. No, let's see.
It was a nice one for 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Well, that was the last ship I was on, so it had to be. I didn't go nowhere else, I don't think. After I got on the train there, I guess.
So how'd you get back to Cincinnati? I guess they put you on a train?
Yeah, they put me on the train, yeah. You know, I can't, that was really something. I can't think how the hell it was. I went to Seattle from the Philippines to Seattle, and then came home. But I don't know how the hell I got
When you came back, yeah.
back from,
I think up in Union Terminal.
I guess you did. I guess you picked me up. But I don't know what port I left California.
Well, that's okay. It's not a quiz.
I have to think about that a while.
Well, when you got back to Cincinnati, when you got out of the Navy, did you know what you wanted to do? Did you have any idea what you?
No, I didn't know what I wanted to do. No, I could have went to school and everything, but I got married instead.
Yeah, where did you meet your wife?
I met her at my mom's house. Yeah, my mom was taking care of my cousin, Margie, and she had appendicitis, and her mother lived up in the Adams County up here above Cincinnati. And that's where I met Mabel. Yeah, she was working down at the card plant, where they made playing cards in Norwood.
Norwood, yeah.
Yeah, they're playing, bicycle decks and so I met her there, and so I offered to take her home, and so I took her home, and then every time Mabel would come out there, I'd take her to the show next time or something. And yeah, we hit it off, but then we broke off about a year, and so I don't know. I think we met again at Margie's mother's boarding house in Norwood. She had to run a boarding house for workers in Norwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a country woman, and she'd get up and take care of these workmen. And she'd get up way early, 4 or 5 in the morning, and fry eggs and cornbread and all kinds of stuff. And so she treated them guys good. They liked her. She knew how to do it. She was well versed in that because she raised a big family.
Yeah. So what kind of job did you get when you came back home?
I got a grave digging job. Yeah. But I worked in different places. I think, let's see. Yeah, that was the first one job. I stayed there until I got married. Yeah, I stayed there yeah, they always called me Digger Odell. Because Digger, it used to be something in the TV when it first came out about Digger Odell.
How long did you do that job, digging?
About, I'd say 3 or 4 years, I guess. Yeah.
Well, you said you did it at the Jewish cemetery in the near Xavier University. But did you do other cemeteries, I take it?
No, it was just, well, there was another cemetery, Calvary, right behind the
Right.
Jewish cemetery. Then St. Mark's Church was right there on the corner. Yeah, Elmer Fessler there, then his 2 sons, they lived right there, or the building there, right in front of the gate. And I stayed there, let's see, till I got married, yeah.
Oh, so you lived near the cemetery.
In fact, Elmer Fessler, he had a greenhouse down there. He had palm trees and all kinds of pretty stuff. And he let me pick out all the flowers I wanted down there. So I decorated the church before I got married.
Did you get married at that church?
No, I got married at Owensville, a Baptist church. I didn't have any church at the time. And so I got married at Baptist. I went up there early one morning and went down and picked up my Mabel's relation getting off the train downtown Cincinnati. Then I came back and went down to the greenhouses where Elmer, he let me have all these flowers. And I went up and decorated the church. And then came back and to my house. And that was it. And that was ready for come back and got my uniform on to get married, clothes and that. And so.
No, eventually I think you got a job working was it an auto plant? Am I wrong about that?
Later on, I got Ford Motor Company when I was taking the flowers, dead flowers and stuff from the cemetery. I took them over there by Red Bank Road where they had a trailer there by this new big building they were building. They just about had it done. And I said, well, how do you get a job in that place? He said, well, just come in this trailer there and fill out an application. So there was a black guy there, and he got in there, and he didn't know how to write. So I filled out his application, and he stayed there as long as I did, and maybe longer. Yeah.
And how long did you stay there?
He stayed there. I stayed there. Well, they did away with that plant after. Let's see. I got out of there about in the late '70s, and I finished off my time at Sharonville. And that guy, that old colored guy, he was over there at Sharonville when I got over there. I said, "You're still hanging around there," but all that year, I said, "Would you ever be able to write?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I can write good now."
And what kind of stuff were you doing there?
I was a quality control. I did a lot of different things in the plant. Started off, at that time they didn't have any machinery to fix to test the transmissions out, so you had to put them in a car and drive them, a test driver. So I was a test driver for a good while, and then later on I got another job running a Herna Dilts, a big old machine. You had to get a ladder to climb up in it. Machine these housings that went around, so it fits on the motor, on your car motor. And this transmission would be attached to this housing. Big cast iron housings, always a rough old job. And you come out there, cast iron dust all over you. And that, you know how that turns, turns you, anything white, yellow. Yeah, I stayed there, then later on I got per inspector's job, and I stayed in that heat treat thing, and then we had an explosion there, and it killed 3 guys in it. Yeah. But I didn't happen to be in there at the time. Gas was all fired by gas, to put this casing on these shafts. They had an explosion, and then one guy was in there. He was a black guy. He ran the whole length of the building, and nobody could tackle him. He was going so fast. And finally, they put something on him in the hospital that wrapped him up in a blanket. And so they gave him a lifetime job, and he had spots. When a black person gets burnt, they get spotted, white spots all over them. You ever notice that? You never did notice that? Well, if you ever notice that, you'll know that fellow's been burnt.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were there for like 30 years?
Yeah, a little over 30 years, 32 years, I think.
Now, I already got a couple minutes left, but I just had just one more thing I wanted to ask you about. Was you live up in Blue Ash,
Yeah.
and there's a memorial up there.
Oh, yeah, there
And
sure is.
Can you talk about that memorial and what you do?
Oh, this past year, this past Memorial Day, we put a new memorial in, and it's really a nice statue representing the Afghanistan war, and for the fellows that was been in there now. And it was a real nice turnout, and there was hundreds of people there, and I was there present, and I've had pictures taken of it. I had my picture taken on the slab before they put the monument on it. So I was posing like a statue myself. My boss told me to get on the slab, so I posed up like a soldier.
So you look in on it, don't you?
Oh, another thing too, up there, I had a brick for my Uncle Willie. I was named after Uncle Willie in World War I. And he's got a brick with his name on it and a star representing his death, and right in front of the World War II monument. And he was a good friend of Sergeant York. They both went through training together at Fort Thomas. They were both living pretty close together, and they came up on the Southern Railroad at the time. And so they was in Fort Thomas over there together. And so they went to camp over there in Virginia, I guess, together. And so Uncle Willie was killed 6 days before the war was over. And in a way, that was, my mother was always looking for Uncle Willie's death benefits, but my dad had to divide it up between his 3 sisters. But we still got $15 a month, and that was a large amount of money at the time.
Yeah. Well, so you look in on that memorial?
Pardon?
You're sort of a caregiver?
Yeah, I work up there every day to maintain the, well, there's other buildings there, the restrooms and the entertainer rooms where they have concerts of the entertainers that came to come. I take care of their rooms too. So I'm just kind of like the greeter at Walmart.
Do you have certain hours you keep?
Yeah, I just go up there in the morning and come back. Before Bud picked me up this morning, I went up there and checked it out. It seemed like it was good enough for me. It'd be good enough for anybody.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I want to say thank you so much for doing this.
Well, I certainly appreciate you taking such interest in me.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for your service.
You know, all of a sudden I'm getting things in the paper, and for years and years I just forgot about everything, you know, about different things. About the only time I could be remembered about some of the ships and that is when I went on these reunions, Callaghan reunions. And so we had a good time there, and I got to see the Hasagawa. I met him, and he got to be pretty famous himself.
Yeah.
And he went to quite a few of our reunions.
Well, it's really great you're doing this stuff, because I think it's really important. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I appreciate meeting such a nice Irish man.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much.